Hey everyone, so we've officially reached the end of an era. After over 3 decades in the Corolla, Toyota has officially decided to discontinue the 1.8 liter engine in the Corolla and replace it with the new 2-liter dynamic force engine. Now this engine will continue for a little bit longer in the Corolla Hybrid, but for now, for 2023 and beyond, Toyota will only offer the new 2-liter dynamic force engine in the standard Corolla. Now because of that, I just went out and purchased a brand new 2022 Corolla with this older 1.8 liter engine. Now I'll get into why I went that route in a minute, but for now I want to talk about the main differences between the engines. Now both engines are inline 4-cylinder engines. They're both naturally aspirated and they're both chain driven engines. The main differences between the engines are this engine is a much more old school, very simple engine with a lot more simple parts in it, and it's been refined over the years many, many times. This is a relatively low compression engine, 10-to-1. It's got a low pressure fuel system, meaning port injected, that runs at about 40 to 50 PSI. And a lot of the systems are basic mechanical systems. Basic mechanical oil pump, mechanical water pump, mechanical thermostat, and this utilizes 0-20 oil. So this is a very simple engine. This is perfect for somebody who wants something really simple that they can work on themselves, and it's been around for a long time, so parts are very plentiful on this engine. Versus the new 2-liter dynamic force engine. That engine's only been out for about 5 years. It debuted in the 2018 Corolla SE. But that engine is a much more complex engine. It is a relatively high compression engine at 13-to-1 compression. It also utilizes both low pressure and high pressure fuel systems. You still maintain the low pressure port injection system, but you're picking up a high pressure system as well. So direct injectors, a high pressure fuel pump, and it runs at about 2,000 pounds of pressure. You're also picking up a lot more complexity inside the engine. You're utilizing a variable displacement oil pump, utilizing an electric variable displacement water pump, and an electric assist thermostat. And you're also using 0-16 oil, which is a little bit harder to find than 0-20. Not super hard, but it's not nearly as common. So when you look at that engine as a whole, Toyota made a lot of changes at one time for that brand new engine. And I'm really worried about the long-term reliability of that engine because Toyota is known for absolutely legendary reliability. And that's why they have such a strong customer base. But the reason Toyota does that is they're very slow to refine a lot of the stuff in their cars, especially the engines. When a new technology comes out, a lot of manufacturers want to run and put it on their cars because it might look good on paper. Maybe it adds more power, it adds better fuel economy, whatever it may be. And there can be reliability issues down the road versus what Toyota normally does is they'll maybe make one change at a time and they'll work out the bugs and try to make the reliability as high as it can possibly be. Like I said, this engine has been out for decades. This engine's not perfect. It had issues throughout the years, issues with oil consumption, issues with the water pumps, issues with the oil pumps. It had issues with the Valvematic system. It came out in 2007. So this engine, it still took over a decade to work a lot of the bugs out of this engine. And that new 2-liter dynamic force engine, like I said, it's less than 5 years old. And with the average person doing 10, 12, maybe 15,000 miles a year, the average one on the road probably has less than 50,000 miles on it. Versus this engine, there are probably hundreds of thousands of them running around with 150, 200,000, 250,000 miles on them. So there's a tremendous amount of data out there that shows, even though this engine did have some little hiccups throughout the years, overall, it's a solid engine, and it is fantastically reliable. It went through different revisions, different generations, but Toyota made a very solid engine here. It might not be the best in terms of fuel economy or power, but you trade that for reliability, and that's normally how Toyota's philosophy is. Now, I'm not saying that this new 2-liter engine is a bad engine. I'm not saying that at all. What I am simply saying is the data isn't there yet, and we just don't know. It might be the best engine Toyota makes, but the fact that they added so much complexity to that engine in the new generation that it is, I'm kind of concerned about the long-term reliability of that engine because reliability is my #1 concern. The benefits for that engine don't really benefit me a tremendous amount. You're picking up 30 horsepower in that engine, which is a lot for a 3,000-pound car, and you're picking up about 2 to 3 miles to the gallon. Now, me doing long distance driving back and forth to work on the highway, the 30 horsepower is not really a big deal because I set the cruise control and it doesn't really make that much of a difference for me. And then there's the fuel economy improvement. Despite that engine getting 3 miles to the gallon better on the highway, me doing 18,000 miles a year, it's about $100 a year difference. So it's basically negligible. And the price difference between the cars is like $700 from 2022 to 2023, the MSRP difference. So I won't see a huge benefit there. I'm concerned about long-term reliability. I was planning on keeping this car 250,000 miles because I wasn't going to run it all the way to the end till like the wheels fell off, like a lot of people say, because I need reliable transportation driving back and forth to work. And that's why I bought this car initially. And I'm worried not only about the long-term reliability of that engine because there's so much complexity as that engine initially, but I'm worried about the long-term maintenance costs on that engine. If a lot of those electronic and variable displacement parts start to have issues, especially out of warranty, there's a much higher potential for it to cost more money to maintain that car, and there's a much higher percentage to have issues with things like breakdowns on that car. So that is why I ran out and bought a 2022, because this engine, although it is not perfect, it did have issues, for the most part has had virtually all the bugs worked out of it. I am the kind of person that buys cars traditionally in their last year of production before they go on to something new, because that is when the most bugs and issues have been worked out of the car. Both of my Shelbys behind me that you see had issues early on in their respective generation. And now both of those cars are the final year of production for their generation. And virtually all of those issues had been worked out. So both of those cars behind me don't suffer the issues that a lot of the early versions do. Basically all of them are gone because they figured out what the problems were, fixed them, and applied the proper fixes to the new years. And that's pretty much what they've done with this engine. It's pretty much perfect. I haven't had any issue with this engine, fortunately. It's been a fantastic engine, and that's why I want to keep this before going to the new engine. If that new engine had been out for 10, 15 years, I would have felt a little bit more comfortable with it, but with them only having the average about 50,000 miles on them, I'm not ready to jump into a new engine yet because I want something that's really reliable, that's going to have a solid reputation, and is very likely to be able to go 250,000 miles with no significant issues. So that's why I decided to purchase the last year of the 1.8 liter engine in the Toyota Corolla. So the car is not here yet. It's going to be delivered to the dealer in a few weeks, but that was the game plan. And there's also some additional improvements with that car. That has the later CVT in it with the launch gear. That was another concern I've always had with this car being an early CVT car. This doesn't have the launch gear, and sometimes they're problematic, sometimes they're not. Knock on wood, this car's been fantastic to me. That's why I'm going to continue to buy Corollas for my daily drivers, because of the Toyota legendary reliability. And I hope that that legendary reliability also continues for those new engines, because if it proves itself down the road and I have to replace the car that I just bought in another 10 years, I will definitely consider doing that. But for now, I'm just going to stick with the older technology, even though it's not quite as efficient, not quite as powerful. I'm willing to trade those features for legendary reliability with this 1.8 liter engine. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.